Podgorica Airport, Montenegro, March 23, 2023. Out on the tarmac, a private jet sits fueled for Dubai. At the desk, a traveler hands over a Costa Rican passport. The officer runs it. Interpol's office in San Jose answers with one word: forged. In the man's luggage, Belgian papers, also forged. Reporters would count 3 passports in total. Only one of them had his real name on it. 10 months earlier, this man was worth billions and told poor people he didn't debate them. Everyone has told you how his machine broke. Nobody finishes the story. So tonight we skip the autopsy and follow the man. Grab your coat, partner. This case needs a map. Case File 10, Do Kwon. You probably know this part, so I'll give it to you in 90 seconds flat. Do Kwon co-founded Terraform Labs and built 2 coins joined at the hip: TerraUSD, UST, a so-called algorithmic stablecoin meant to be worth exactly $1. Not backed by dollars in a bank, backed by an algorithm and by a sister coin called Luna. On top of it sat a savings program called Anchor, dangling about 20% a year. Tens of billions of dollars walked in the front door. Now, the part that makes this a crime, and not just bad engineering. May 2021, a full year before the disaster, the peg slipped. Kwon told the world his algorithm had healed itself. Self-healing money, proof the machine worked. Federal prosecutors proved otherwise. He had quietly cut a deal with a high-frequency trading firm to buy up UST by the millions and drag the peg back to $1. The machine never healed itself. Men healed it, in a back room, and then sold the lie as a miracle. May 2022, UST depegged again. This time, no backroom was big enough. A war chest of more than $3 billion in Bitcoin was thrown into the fire and burned down to almost nothing. Over $40 billion of market value, gone. You've seen that winner on this wall before. Case File 2, Celsius, froze its doors the very next month. Same storm, different building. But every 2022 video ends there, at the crater. Our case starts there, because the man at the center of it got on a plane. Quick word about method before we travel. Most cases on this wall, we ask how the money vanished. This one, the money is the easy part. 40 billion, gone, certified by 2 governments. The question tonight is older than crypto and simpler than any algorithm. How far can a man run on pure confidence? Turns out the answer has 3 pins in it. Pin number 1, Singapore. Terraform's home base and Kwon's when the ash settled. September 14, 2022, a court in Seoul issues an arrest warrant for Kwon and 5 others. Days later, Singapore police announce something interesting. He isn't in the city-state anymore, and here's what makes our fugitive special. He narrated his own getaway. He posted that he wasn't on the run at all, that he was making, by his own account, no effort whatsoever to hide. Prosecutors in Seoul read that, called him their words, obviously on the run, and asked Interpol for a red notice. By late September it was live, a be on the lookout to police in nearly 200 countries. Find this man. Rewind his feed and you can see the character he'd built. Arrogance as a brand. When an economist questioned his stablecoin back in 2021, he answered as, quote, "I don't debate the poor. That one's real. I keep the receipt pinned right here." And according to the Department of Justice, his stated plan, if law enforcement ever came knocking, was to tell them, "I'll keep it family-friendly," to get lost. He even talked about lining up political protection in more than one country, like extradition treaties were a menu. Pin number 2, Serbia, December 2022. Korean investigators track him to Belgrade. A comfortable city, a quiet winter, and no arrangement in place doing Seoul any favors. And notice something. The tweets slow down. The man who wouldn't debate the poor goes conspicuously silent, 1 post at a time. Loud men only go quiet for 2 reasons: partner, lawyers, or luggage. Pin number 3, Montenegro, small Balkan country, one international airport. March 23, 2023, a private jet on the Podgorica tarmac, destination Dubai. Which brings us right back to where we opened. A Costa Rican passport that does not survive the scan, Belgian documents in the luggage, 3 passports in total by the reporting, including his genuine South Korean one, and in the seat beside him, Terraform's former chief financial officer, Han Chang-jun. Both men were in handcuffs before that jet ever moved. The red notice was 5 months old. Counting from the collapse, the run had lasted 300 and change days. It ended without a chase scene and without a shootout. It ended with a barcode. Look at this route with me. Singapore, Serbia, Montenegro, Dubai, attempted. Every single stop, a place where the paperwork moves slower than the suspect. That is not a man making no effort to hide. That's a man doing his research. Now comes the strangest stretch of this case, the part the 2022 videos never got to because it hadn't happened yet. First, Montenegro handled its own business. June 2023, a court in Podgorica gives Kwon and Han 4 months each for the forged documents. Small charge, small sentence. The real fight was about what came next, because 2 countries wanted this man, and they wanted him badly. South Korea, where he faced capital markets charges and where millions of his tokens had been sold. And the United States, and where fraud charges were waiting in the Southern District of New York. What followed was 2 years of judicial ping-pong. November 2023, a high court says extradite. March 2024, an appeals court overturns it. August 2024, the Supreme Court hits pause. October 2024, the Constitutional Court suspends everything. Seoul, New York, Seoul. A $40 billion defendant sitting in a Balkan detention center while courts batted his forwarding address back and forth across the net. His old CFO didn't wait around for the final score. Han was extradited to South Korea in February 2024. Meanwhile, New York didn't wait either. April 2024, a civil jury finds Kwon and Terraform liable for fraud. That June, the settlement lands, $4.5 billion, about $200 million of it against Kwon personally, and the company ordered to wind itself down and hand what's left back to the victims, cents on the dollar against $40 billion. But it put a word on the record that would follow him into the criminal case, fraud. December 2024, Montenegro's Supreme Court hands the final call to the Justice Minister. 2 days after Christmas, he signs, destination, the United States. And on December 31st, 2024, the last day of the year, Do Kwon crosses the Atlantic in the one seat he'd spent 2 years avoiding. Here's the ending the old videos don't have. August 2025. A Manhattan courtroom. Do Kwon pleads guilty. Wire fraud and conspiracy to commit securities fraud, commodities fraud, and wire fraud. No more algorithm talk. On the record, the self-healing peg of 2021 becomes exactly what prosecutors said it was, a secret trade dressed up as a miracle. December 11th, 2025. Judge Paul Engelmeyer, Southern District of New York. 15 years in federal prison, more than $19 million forfeited, and a sentence that came with a diagnosis. The judge told him, quote, "You've been bitten by the crypto bug." Sit with that phrase a second. A bug. Something that gets into a man. $40 billion in losses, a fake passport, an Interpol notice, 4 courts and 2 countries. And the best name for the disease was still the small one. He caught the bug. Everyone else paid for the cure. And that, partner, closes the shelf. Look at the wall with me. Case File 1, Safe Moon, the vault that was never locked. Case File 2, Celsius, the bank that froze its own door shut. Charles Ponzi and his penny postal coupons. The ghost this whole wall answers to. Board after board, the same red thread running through every one. A confident man, an impossible promise, and a bill that always arrives. Do Kwon's board gets the last pin of the season. Not because his lie was the biggest, though 40 billion is a number you can see from orbit. Because he gave us the one thing the others rarely give, an ending. Caught at the gate, holding someone else's name. The moral this time is short. When the machine breaks, watch what the man does next. An honest engineer stays with the wreckage. A guilty one buys a passport. This shelf is closed, but somewhere in my files is a man who was sentenced to 845 years. That is not a typo, partner. 8 centuries. The new shelf opens soon. Subscribe, partner. The next investigation is already open.